This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Anne-Marie Andric, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hello, Johan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I am very, very excited to have you join us today. Johan Sellgren, one of the more seasoned ones.
Yeah, that's correct.
For Spotify.
Yeah, I'm one of the long timers in the HR team, so I've been here for a while. Yeah.
For a while.
Don't
mention the year.
No,
for a while.
It's plus 10 years. I started when Spotify was about 400 people. Now we're about 8,000. So yeah, it's a while.
Fantastic. What a journey. And what is your role today?
I am HR business partner for one of the bigger R&D teams that we call the Experience Mission. Mainly based here in Stockholm, but also with smaller sites across EMEA and also US.
Great. So it's a global role.
Yeah, it's a global role.
People all around the world.
About 1,000 people. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. I thought I really wanted to bring you here to talk about something that I know is high on the agenda for so many companies out there, and where HR is both struggling but also being successful in many areas, and that is internal mobility. Now, as growth is your mantra at Spotify, would you say that internal mobility is important and high on the agenda for you as well?
Yes, it is. And it's been that for a long time, of course. I mean, growth is our mantra, both as a company, but also as an individual. So when you look at career growth, we hire a lot of talent for their potential as one strong factor. And now we want to retain them. And internal mobility is, of course, one of the key factors to retain good people.
Yeah. How do you, if you were to describe to us, how do you work with internal mobility today? And I have a few questions on that later on, but if you were to describe it broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. So internal mobility, as I said, always been a number one priority. We look a lot about internal growth coming from the employee themselves. They need to be in the driver's seat of their own career. And we have a lot of great leaders and managers that are the gardeners to match the right people to the right task all the time. So internal mobility is built into our performance development process, to their goals that they set for themselves and so on. And then, of course, there are tons of programs and different forums where you can engage in this that we've built out throughout the years. So this is, once again, it's nothing new. And when I listen in and watch previous episodes, you talked about ECHO, building out our internal talent marketplace. So that is one of the important platforms that we need to continue to build upon.
Right, exactly. And I just love the fact that you also say performance development, you develop for performance, you don't manage for performance, right? Excellent. And we've known Spotify to be a company that is in hypergrowth. Are you there today?
No, we are not. So with the macroeconomics, and you've seen all the headers around the globe for the tech industry. So of course it's been a tough past year. So we have had some reduction also in force, and that has of course been painful, and we are in this kind of transition as a company. So as you say, yes, most part of Spotify has been in hypergrowth for many years. So that's a kind of a new, the transition is also, what does internal mobility, how will that look like in a world where we will not grow our workforce?
Right.
So we will most likely stay flat now for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And especially for this budget year, we will stay flat. And that is not new to us anymore, but it's no new news, as to say. But still, a lot of things need to adapt to do that new reality for us. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's very interesting. So does this change the way that you look at internal mobility and growth of your people?
Yes, it have to. Because as I mentioned before, I mean, with Echo and a lot of those platforms that has been built out to enable internal mobility, you also have to kind of be mindful about the reality with hypergrowth that we come from, and that we have had a lot of leaders that have been incentivized to grow out their teams. And with all kinds of incentives, there are also consequences of that. And one consequence is that we haven't really been super successful when it comes to internal mobility on the horizontal, that you move from one business area to another business area.
Right.
We've been great with internal mobility when it comes to your closest teams and your sister team over there and so on. But that has still been the incentive for the manager. If you are put with the target to grow your team with 20% a year, of course you want to retain them as well. And that unintentionally also hinders a bit to look more horizontal, to make sure that internal mobility works more on that vertical as well.
Exactly. And how do you prepare? How do you partner with the people leaders in this a bit revised thinking?
Yeah. It's. I mean, we are in this transition, and we don't know all the answers, but we are actively, like we're doing now, talking about it to figure it out. Before I go into the answer there, it's also super important to debate a bit what is healthy internal mobility.
Yes.
Because we learned from the fall when we started to talk more actively around this, that it's not about, it's not that we are asking every single employee at Spotify to, hey, start to look around, what is your new job and so on. It's not at all around that. And internal mobility to change job or change role is not for everyone. Many are perfectly happy. So that is super important to be mindful about. But still, with the new macroeconomics and us staying flat as an organization, we need to ensure that we retain all the great talent that we brought in.
Right.
And that means that we need, as an HR team, we, instead of putting a lot of resources towards the acquisition piece, now we need to really put more of those pieces to the talent intelligence to understand the talent we have already in-house in a different way with a different types of methodology. And the number one thing that I want to point out there, back to the incentives also, is that as an HR team, we can, we built out the talent marketplace with Echo, and we have tweaked internal hiring processes to optimize for internal talent. We are in a transformation for the TA team on how to source internally, how do they spot the internal talent, and all of that is in progress, and good progress. But that is one thing. But then when you come back to the incentives, it needs to be also a bit of a mindset shift sometimes, and new incentives for senior leadership. They need to walk the talk here and share talent. We say in our manager manifesto that it's Spotify talent, it's not your talents.
Exactly.
But what does that mean in practice? And it's one of those words that we are, that mantra we are kind of, in principle that we are working hard with now to translate that into practice. What does that actually mean if you are on a C-level, and how do you act on that? How can HR help out with all of that talent intelligence that we have with us to put that in front of the leads to make better decisions, to move talent around when needed for the right business reasons?
Exactly. I mean, common sense. And sometimes maybe not that easy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the transition here, because in hypergrowth, we want to be nice as humans, right? And even though you know that your peer in another division, they have great talent. If you are allowed to hire, it's easier, right? Because it creates some friction also. So that's the friction that we need to kind of be mindful about. We also need to let it take some time to get leadership on board with this and find those new incentives on how we do this transition together.
Exactly. Interesting. It's an interesting phase for you.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
Growing up.
Yes. Yeah, it's growing up, and also growing up, yes, but also be humble that, it's the reality. We've been in this hypergrowth. So it's also that we have to be humble and say that, hey, many of us have not done anything in the previous steps in your career, maybe. So many of us have been both within HR, but also the leaders we're working towards. They've been in this hypergrowth climate for many years now.
Exactly.
So that is also important, to not be too kind of hard on ourselves and not move too fast sometimes, because it is a transition over a bit of time.
Yeah. And also, I think excellent for you, given that growth is your mantra, this is a great learning opportunity for you, both organizationally, but also from a leadership perspective, right?
Yes, for sure. And it is a lot of internal discussions now, especially as I mentioned with the tough year we had last year with organizational changes and so on. And we see that things will pick up, of course, and we are already seeing that we start to look at how the team should settle and how we can open up new roles. And when we have those open roles, it's super important that we optimize for the internal talent and that we know our talent and that we have one goal that are a bit aspirational, but still that we want to see if we can aim to fill half of all the open roles during this year with internal talent.
Right.
And if that's going to come into play during the year, then as a consequence, we also, when we go externally and hire, to optimize for all the great talent we brought in, means that we also need to maybe backfill with external candidates that are a bit more junior.
Yes.
To make the system work, to make sure that we can bet on the ones. So the goal is always to kind of be a bit more proactive here. So the great talent we brought in, that we are, that instead of someone externally, they should not have time to think about that. So we are there to understand what their next aspiration is.
Sure.
And this is also back to talent acquisition team again. This is a transformation for them as well. We have optimized for volume and hyper growth. So this is a new, much more consultative way to understand the talent here in a new way. And it's a constant debate we have now. Okay, can we proactively reach out to candidates? Who should be involved? And what is the data that TA needs to do this in a consultative way?
Yeah.
But the approach now, as I see it, we are not there yet, but work in progress, is that TA need to have that more of a consultative role, and they should be able to practically reach out if they show up on a short list and can be a potential candidate. And maybe they are perfectly happy where they are, but that is also a great data point, right?
Exactly.
Because then we know,
and
know. It's not likely that they will respond to a LinkedIn ping from an external recruiter if they're happy where they are, and that is a great data point. So that is the more of the consultative approach that we are implementing as we speak.
Great. I was just going to ask you, because you mentioned talent acquisition, because obviously you are then, as you said, you're partnering as an HRVP, you're partnering with the talent acquisition team in a different way now. Obviously also a great learning opportunity for the talent acquisition team, working more consultatively than just sourcing. I didn't say that, I didn't.
No, that's what I mean.
But I think, again, living that, the mantra of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting journey for sure, and it's super engaging to work with a talent acquisition team. Of course, it is tough for those teams when we have a downturn because they are hit first. That's how it looks like in the industry, of course. So now, new year, able to turn the page and look ahead. So we have great momentum there.
Yeah.
And it's also in Spotify, as I see it. Now I've been here for a long time, so it's hard for me to compare, but I believe that we have a great iterative approach. It's okay to do mistakes. What is the worst things that can happen? Yeah, it's that the candidate says that, internal candidate says that, now it's 3 TA recruiters that reach out the past month. Don't you know, because that's the kind of the system and the tooling are not really in place on how to have a methodology around this. We are working on that, but hey, that's not too bad. I mean, so we need to iteratively find our ways here to move in the right direction. And at the same time as we do those iterative steps, there are some bigger stones that we also need to shift in this direction.
And what are those stories? Is that a cliffhanger for the next episode?
It's still planning or a bit in progress, but let me see if I can.
What can you share?
Yeah, I can share one. One of the biggest stones, once again, we talk about our internal talent marketplace.
Yeah.
And I mean, most companies, they have some kind of employee record, and here is your profile, and you can fill in and so on. But then, hey, data is pretty stale. What do you do with the data? But here we see a great combination. I know that you met Gary before, and we have Echo, we have Scout. How can they talk together in a much better way? How can we be more predictable with that data? And how can TA or senior leadership or HRBPs use that data in a more practical way, also for planning purposes.
Exactly.
When we plan future bets. So this is also connected to when I talked about the narrative from senior leadership, that they use our talent insights in a much more practical way, as a natural way of how we plan future bets. Workforce planning basis is a more ongoing workforce planning with that talent intelligence to place them to the right bets at the right time. Because once again, if you can't hire externally, this is what we have. It is Spotify talent, so that is going to be a much more of a tool that we can use more strategically also as part of the business planning. But that is early days, but it was one of the big rocks, and just a hint.
I love the hint. So basically it means, Johan, I will invite you back, and I'm so going to invite Gary back to share this with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Interesting year for you. Will be nice to hear, maybe when we close this year, what has happened? Are you happy with the progress? Were you successful? What were the learnings, right?
Yeah, we will see.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shall we close it?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
How do we do it? With the 3 things?
Stay
safe, stay strong,
stay active.
Idemo dalje. Great! Johan! He did it!
Almost.
Kändes det bra?
Ja, jag tror det.
Ja, men du var jättebra.
Jag hoppar lite fram och tillbaka. Men
nej, det gör ingenting. Jag tyckte att du sa jättemycket intressanta saker där. Och jag bara, ge mig the rocks. What are you talking about? Jag såg ju liksom framför mig, här kommer det ju bli nya ämnen. Nej, stay safe, stay closed, stay active, va? Nej. Stay safe, stay strong, stay active. De 3.
Ja, vad var det sista då?
Idemo dalje. Stay active. Idemo dalje. Kommer vi ihåg, eller?
Nej, det kommer jag glömma bort. Idemo dalje.
Det roligaste var när MK bara, that's Swedish, right? No, it's not. Idemo dalje. Det är serbokroatiska. Du vet vad det betyder?
Alltså, nej.
Då går vi vidare.
Okay. Det är lite samma tonalitet.
Ja.